We've accomplished an economic turnaround of historic proportions. Once again, we are the economic envy of the entire world.
The economy is booming with over 4% growth.
We're going to go a lot higher than these numbers, and these are great numbers.
President Trump is going to take a lot of credit for these good numbers. Don't believe him.
Everything about the Trump agenda is working, and of course that's going to drive the critics crazy.
New evidence of progress with North Korea. Kim Jong-un handing over 55 cases said to contain the remains of American soldiers killed in the Korean War.
These incredible American heroes will soon lay at rest on sacred American soil. It's something that was very important to me.
I never protest. I never protest during the anthem, and I don't think that's the time or the venue to do so. You bring such a controversy to the stadium, to the field, to the game. It takes away from the joy and to the love that football brings to a lot of people.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, just elected. Her platform includes free health care, college tuition, the minimum living wage. Housing is a human right. How are we going to pay for this?
Oh, God.
From falling down.
This song's on my running mix.
Is it?
Doesn't it just get you going in the morning?
Never heard it before in my life.
Really?
Never. Sounds great,
Usually
though.
we're always together.
I know.
Taste.
We're usually synced up.
Yeah,
Not
What is on your running mix?
90s rap. And a lot of other teeny bopper music as well. Griff, what's up?
You know, a lot going on. I was filling in at the White House for most of this past week, and there was a small event that occurred yesterday, and that is our economy is growing in leaps and bounds. The president taking to the Rose Garden. It was really something to be there.
You were there in person?
I was. Oh. And I was covering, for the channel, and the mood at the White House, amidst all the things going on, is really jubilant. They really know that they've scored, as I was sort of explaining. We were talking earlier, Pete, this is, if it were a golf game, the president has just hit an eagle. They've teed off on the next hole, and they're looking at a short pitch for a birdie. Here is the president yesterday. Take a listen.
It is indeed a big one. We've accomplished an economic turnaround of historic proportions. Once again, we are the economic envy of the entire world. As the trade deals come in one by one, we're going to go a lot higher than these numbers, and these are great numbers. These numbers are very, very sustainable. This isn't a one-time shot. If economic growth continues at this pace, the United States economy will double in size more than 10 years faster than it would have under either President Bush or President Obama.
So this is a big part of the reason why Americans voted for this president. A businessman who's going to cut taxes, slash regulations, unleash the free market, make deals that work for America. And when you see 4.1 GDP, there are people economists and experts who said it was impossible to get to 4%. Never going to happen. Here we are, and likely and potentially even moving past it. It's what a pro-business president looks like versus a pro-government president. And that's what brings jobs back. And so, folks are happy in the White House. Guess who's happy? The American people who have jobs and prosperity, and that's what they were hoping for.
I was just going to say, whether you voted for the president or not, you've got to be pretty happy right now with the numbers that we're seeing. And this goes back to, this is the first time that they can really say this is the impact in large part because of the policies that we have put in place. You mentioned regulation and the deregulation that we've seen. Also, tax reform. I mean, this quarter is really the first time we've seen the tax reform go into full effect. And as you said, Pete, people are buying things again. Companies are out buying, right? It shows that people have more in their pocketbook and they feel that confidence. They want to go out and buy things. They want to give their family things, right? They want to live that American dream. That's what we all aspire to do in this country. So I don't care where you sit on the political aisle. You've got to feel good right now. You've got to feel pretty confident about where this country is.
Huge confidence. And Rush Limbaugh was talking about this yesterday, and he's very good sometimes at sort of breaking things down on why they are.
All the time.
All the time. Here's what Rush said. Take a listen.
This 4% GDP is exactly what should happen based on the policies that Trump implemented. Deregulation, which allows capital money to start moving around in creative and innovative ways. People earning more, getting increases, getting bonuses, paying less in taxes, more disposable income, meaning there's more commerce. It's a self-feeding growth formula. And it works every time it's tried. There's nothing accidental. There's nothing coincidental here. And there's nothing really magic. It's just plain old 2 + 2 is 4 common sense.
Yes.
And just to put one final point on it, and that was the president at the very end of his remarks, he said, he's very honored to see the 4.1 number, but perhaps I'm even more honored to see the trade deficit shrink. We'll talk more about that later today. That's really the secret driver here, the fact that the trade deficit means we're exporting more than double what we have been recently.
That's a big one for him. But you look at industries like manufacturing, like energy, like construction, the ones that previous administrations said are the jobs of yesterday. He says
Didn't
no.
Hillary Clinton say that?
And Barack Obama did as well, that kind of anemic growth is the new normal. And a lot of economists said that as well. Griff, you brought this up. You should get credit for this, but I'm going to read it. So one of our reports, in October of 2016, CNN surveyed 11 economists on whether the economy would ever reach 4% GDP. All said no. Quote, one economist, his name is Robert Brusca. We'd love him to come on the program. He's a senior economist at FAO Economics. He said, pigs do not fly. Donald Trump is dreaming that it would get to 4%. So breaking news this morning, pigs do fly. They actually do.
And you know it's breaking news
we hit
it's on
4.1%. If it's on the folder, it's got to be true. But think about it. The economists and everyone in the establishment said, no, 4% can't happen. We are managing America's decline. We're a second-rate power. Our economy is just kind of stuck in the mud. And Trump said, no, we can unleash it again. America can be great. The economic engine of free markets and capitalism works. And that's exactly what's happening right now. We should celebrate that.
What is number one for so many people when they go out to vote is the economy, right? The midterms are right around the corner. And Steve Bannon, who used to be a strategist for the president, is no longer there, but working on the sidelines to get people motivated to get out and vote for the president's policies. He had a message, and he says that the opposition will try and unwind everything the president has done. And this is why people need to get out. Here's what he said.
This is going to be an up or down vote. It's a referendum on the Trump presidency. They are very focused. The opposition is going to be very focused on trying to win the House of Representatives, try to win Congress in order to impeach President Trump and stop the entire project. They're going to try to unwind it. So this is really, the Democrats got one thing. They got a do-over. In this November, and it's 100 days and a wake-up. 100 days and a wake-up, we're going to have essentially a national election. And that's going to determine the second half of the first term of President Trump, and I think 2020.
He's a Navy guy. 100 days and a wake up. We use the same thing in the Army. 100 days and you wake up to go home on a. So his reference is we're right here, right at the end, and he's exactly right. This is a political war. The Democrats want to impeach this president. Motivation should be high on both sides, because if the Democrats get the House of Representatives, that's where they're going. That's where the energy of their base is. Their base in the media have led the Democrats from the beginning. If you're a Republican, if you're a Trump supporter, you better be motivated to prevent that from happening.
Well, you talk about 100 days. We're less than 100 days from the start of the NFL season. And I got to talk about this, because this has been an issue from the first time the president took umbrage at players not standing for the anthem. And that is now, at best, a debacle. At worst,
at best, a
literally non-starter for a NFL that last season saw less than almost 10% of its viewing cut to drop. And now here we are.
We're still
the
dealing
NFL
with it.
Players Association is basically saying, well, we're not on board. We're not going to go with this new anthem policy that Roger Goodell apparently thought he had solved it. And it appears he hasn't. The Redskins, my Redskins, just started this week training camp. Everyone's taking a look. People are trying to get excited. But I don't know. It could be a really rough time.
Yeah, well, Dak Prescott, of course, the Cowboys quarterback, he had some thoughts on this and some pretty strong words about what the game means to him and what the game of football means to so many Americans and what this has done to sort of take away that joy that we all feel when we watch football. Here's what he said about this.
I never protest. I never protest during the anthem, and I don't think that's the time or the venue to do so. The game of football has always brought me such a peace, and I think it does the same for a lot of people. A lot of people playing the game, a lot of people watching the game, a lot of people that have any impact of the game. So when you bring such a controversy to the stadium, to the field, to the game, it takes away from that. It takes away from the joy and to the love that football brings a lot of people. I'm up for taking a next step, that whatever that step may be, for action and not just kneeling.
So, amen. Well said. He can figure out what the NFL cannot. They're in these meetings right now with the Players Association. Of course, the Players Association could fix it if they want to. They won't. So right now it remains an ambivalent ambivalent.
You know what? We know what you mean.
Ambiguous, whatever it is, I don't even know. A policy that does not make sense to a lot of people. But Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, came out recently and said, if you're on my team, you're standing for the anthem. To me, that seems like the easiest policy.
Right.
You're on my team, stand for the anthem. Otherwise, you're going to sit out. You're not going to be on this team. NFL just hurting itself right now.
Yeah.
And Dak Prescott, God bless him for being clear when a lot of people won't.
But also, where's the kneeling godness, right? If there are concerns and people want to talk about inequality and challenges that we face in this country, let's focus on ways that we can make that positive change, right? I'm not sure that what we've seen play out over the last year has really helped us in any way, other than just get attention and headlines.
And let us know what you think about this. Email us at friends@foxnews.com. But just so that we're all very clear, what is being talked about for the anthem would be that during the national anthem, players in the field and bench area should stand at attention, face the flag, hold helmets in their left hand, and refrain from talking. That is what they're asking for, and they're
Sounds
not
really
getting
difficult.
All right. Send us your thoughts. Friends@foxnews.com. We do have some other headlines I do want to bring you this morning, starting with a Fox News alert. 2 officers shot while responding to a disturbance call in Massachusetts. The Falmouth police chief identifying the injured officers as Ryan Moore and Donald D. Miranda. One officer was hit twice in the chest. The other grazed by a bullet in the head.
This is happening way too much. We've got to return back to a time when police officers are respected. And it's not okay to shoot a police officer.
The suspect was also shot and will be taken into custody once he's out of the hospital. Both officers are expected to be okay. Meanwhile, overnight in Los Angeles, a female officer is now recovering after being shot in the leg. The suspect also was shot. Still unclear what led to that shooting. Both of their conditions are unknown. And now to another Fox News alert, a desperate search for 2 young kids and their great-grandmother after their house burns to the ground. The Carr Fire in Northern California tripling in size, leveling more than 500 homes and threatening 5,000 others. Incredible video of fierce flames whipping into fire tornadoes. 2 firefighters have now been killed. The fire is only 5% at this point contained. And there's this, President Trump putting his stamp of approval for Michigan's Republican primary for U.S. Senate. The president tweeting in part this: John James, who is running the Republican primary in the great state of Michigan, is spectacular. Vote on August 7th. Rarely have I seen a candidate with such a great potential. West Point graduate, successful businessman, and an African-American leader. James will join us live during the 9 o'clock hour on the show. You don't want to miss that interview. And there's this, a spectacular event seen around the world, the longest total lunar eclipse of the century, lasting 1 hour and 43 minutes. The blood moon happens when the sun, the earth, and the moon perfectly align. Those in North America and Greenland could not see it because of the time of day.
So you didn't see it, but it sounded cool.
And it looks very cool in the pictures. Yes. That's why we do our job, Pete.
I know, it's true.
Tell everyone what they're missing.
Sorry, guys. All right, well, the second quarter GDP growth, just the latest sign of Trump's booming economy. Are Democrats in trouble for 2020? Economist Peter Morici weighs in next.
And have you ever seen a crowd go this wild over darts? The play that drove them insane just ahead. Watch this.
Stunner of a leg, a 9-yarder to make it 2-2 and to break back.
If you're just waking up, the Trump economy is booming. GDP growth surging 4.1% in the second quarter, up from just over 2% in the previous quarter. President Trump highlighting the success yesterday.
If economic growth continues at this pace, the United States economy will double in size more than 10 years faster than it would have under either President Bush or President Obama.
Here to discuss, Peter Morici, an economist and professor at the University of Maryland, and really honestly, one of the smartest guys I know, and I'm privileged to talk to you every morning in D.C. So we went to you, Peter. What do these numbers mean, and why has this happened?
Well, it's quite simple. The government has gotten out of the way and let the American people solve their own problems. You know, cut the taxes, cut the regulation and so forth. What it means is the Democrats have got a data problem. I mean, led by Paul Krugman at the New York Times, Donald Trump was supposed to be a flop. Well, now he's a success. You know, at the White House, they got to be feeling good. There's nothing like being a coach on Monday morning and having beaten the spread.
That's right, Peter. You know, I was at the White House yesterday. They're elated over there, but they're elated not just because they hit this number, but because they believe these numbers are sustainable. What do you say? Will we see another quarter like this?
Well, we'll see other quarters like this, and even Barack Obama had quarters like this. What matters is the average over many quarters. And I think this president can sustain 3% growth. Now, that's not a come down. I mean, you know, Barack Obama had 1.8. So 3% growth would be a profound difference in Americans' lives. Sooner or later, wages would simply have to go up from that because somebody has to get the money. Stocks, IRAs, KIOs, retirements would improve dramatically. Governments would have more revenue. You know, all the stress you see in state and local governments would abate.
Right.
3% growth is marvelous.
Peter, you mentioned President Obama. Would these numbers have happened? Would this have happened under a President Clinton?
Absolutely not. You know the agenda. Listen to Cortez in New York right now. More taxes, more regulation, more giveaways, more of a war on work. More of a tax on work. You know, Americans can only bear so much. We've let up on the burdens, and it's like taking the weights off a sprinter, and they've run away.
Yeah, you know, I want to ask you, I don't want to go in the weeds, it's early on Saturday morning, but just the president in his remarks at the very end said a big driver of this and what will make it sustainable is the trade deficit has been cut significantly to the tune of $52 billion. Why does that matter?
Well, it was an export-led surge, and we need to start exporting more in America. You know, there is nothing wrong with buying Chinese toasters if we can sell them the things that we do well. And President Trump is trying to open up markets. And, of course, a big part of that message was watch the trade agreements, you know, I get for you. And so that's really what he's banking on. I'm hoping that we're going to see more investment in America than we have seen lately. And that wasn't in the numbers as strong as I'd like. That's where I think the big growth surge is going to come from. Lower corporate taxes, right. Lower cost of capital, so people invest more in America.
I want to get one last question in with you, Peter, and that is many of the naysayers now say that this 4.1 number came about because companies were front-loading, trying to get ahead of the tariff impact. What do you say?
You can't see it in the data. What's more, we don't know what the tariffs are going to be on the other side. So my feeling is that that was just basically Democrats hiding in the bowels of banks who are anti-Trump, who came up with polemics to poo-poo a marvelous achievement. You know, one of the things I really disliked yesterday was Donald Trump deserves some congratulations for his accomplishments, and there was Chuck Schumer, negative again. You know, this is a day to celebrate. Let's hope we have some more.
That's right. Peter Morici, the man to go to when you need to sort things out. Thank you very much. Have a great Saturday. And you're right. It is a time to celebrate. These numbers are real. And as you say, perhaps the good times are here to stay. Thank you, Peter.
Take care.
All right. A wild brawl breaking out at President Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What sparked the punches? And Senator Cory Booker taking a page out of Maxine Waters' playbook.
Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
So does this help the political discord in America? We'll debate it. That's coming up next.
Welcome back. Well, the remains of 55 U.S. service members killed in the Korean War returned to the U.S. by North Korea. President Trump making a heartfelt tribute in honor of our fallen heroes. Jillian Turner is in Washington, D.C. with more. Jillian.
Good morning, Pete. President Trump paying tribute to fallen American soldiers and dictator Kim Jong-un yesterday in a ceremony to repatriate the remains of Americans who perished during the Korean War between 1950 and 53.
I want to thank Chairman Kim for keeping his word, for fulfilling a promise that he made to me, and I'm sure that he will continue to fulfill that promise as they search and search and search.
The 55 cases were each draped with the flag of the United Nations, and they arrived aboard a U.S. military plane at Osan air base just outside Seoul, South Korea. This transfer had been negotiated last month during President Trump's summit with Kim in Singapore, where they reportedly discussed this matter directly, face to face. The return of remains is viewed as a way for the North to demonstrate its intent to follow through on other commitments that Kim made to President Trump, including, most importantly, the commitment to denuclearize. Now, about 7,700 U.S. soldiers are listed as missing from the Korean War, and 5,300 of their remains are believed to still be at large in North Korea. The war killed millions, but most notably 36,000 Americans, Pete.
Welcome home, man. Jillian, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Abby, down to you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, remember when Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters said this?
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them.
Well, this week, Senator Cory Booker seemingly took a page out of her playbook. Listen to Cory.
That's my call to action here. Please don't just come here today and then go home. Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
Well, the senator has since walked back this aggressive rhetoric, but is this really the right message to send to an already heated base? Here to debate, Democratic strategist Rochelle Ritchie and Republican strategist Gianno Caldwell. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Abby.
Good morning.
Gianno, what does this tell you about our political rhetoric right now, and maybe more importantly in this conversation, the direction of the Democratic Party? Cory Booker is someone who's talked about running for president in 2020.
Yeah, there's a lot of Democrats looking to run for president. Maybe even the new face of the Democratic Party, Maxine Waters. Honestly, when I think about the rhetoric in which Maxine Waters is used, it seems as though when Democrats can't win on their ideas, mob violence seems to be the answer. This has become a very dangerous scenario at play. When you see Trump supporters or Republicans in general get attacked, you think about an example that happened in 2016 where a Chicago man was beaten and people were yelling out that he voted Trump. You know that this isn't an environment that many should make the kind of careless and dangerous comments that Senator Booker made.
Yeah, Rochelle, this is when leadership matters, right? You have two political parties that seem to not be further apart. Why are we seeing so much hate?
Well, look, first of all, I think that we need to be clear that Senator Booker never called for anyone to be physically assaulted, harassed, or followed. And the fact that 17 seconds of his 35...
So what did he mean by that when he said get up in the faces of people on the Hill?
When you take 17 seconds of someone's 35-minute speech and you misrepresent it, to me, that's the epitome of fake news.
Do you think that's helpful, though? Do you think that message is helpful for your party and for the country?
He clearly is telling people to get in the face of people in Congress. And Abby, he did not say get in the face of conservatives. He did not say get in the face of Republicans. And he was actually asking people to get in the face of members of Congress to address homelessness in this country.
But let me ask you this, Rochelle. Is that the most effective way to actually make change? Is it to get up and to yell in someone's face? Is that the way we move forward as a country?
You know what? I don't think that he used the word hurt, beat, and I don't think that he offered to pay the legal fees of advocates who go and knock the crap out of people because they disagree with the senator. So if we want to talk about leadership, if we really want to talk about that, it starts at the Oval Office.
Gianna?
Well, Rochelle, if I may respond to that, and I do agree that I don't believe that Senator Booker was actually saying to go beat people up. What I can say, though, considering the environment that we are in, the hostility, especially when it comes to being against actual people who are Republicans, Trump supporters, wouldn't you agree that his comments were careless and dangerous? Thereby, that's why he walked them back. That's why he said, this is not the direction I'm going in. So we can at least have a conversation and be very honest. And I know that you and I will be very honest with the audience at home.
Honest,
that his comments were careless and dangerous.
Words matter. Words definitely matter. But I think that we have to look at 35 minutes worth of words, not 17 seconds. And the entire speech was really phenomenal. I mean, he was talking about the future of America, and he was saying this is not about a blue future. This is not about a red future, a Republican future, a Democrat future. It's about the American future when it comes to homelessness and poverty in this country. So I think that if we're going to take 17 seconds, we need to make sure that we are telling the American people the truth by saying, watch 35 minutes and listen to what he says before
I hear you, but you also need to think about what is being said, even if it is 17 seconds, of just how we come together more as Americans. I think you're right.
Let's
the way to
start
be
with
most
President
effective
Trump.
in that party, though, is to talk about the issues. Just quickly, both of you, how do we move forward from here? Rochelle, you first.
You know, I think that we have to learn to agree to disagree. That's just a common theme that I think mature adults can agree to disagree. Do I condone violence of any sort, whether you're on the left or right? Absolutely not. I did think that Congresswoman Maxine Waters did step out of line a little bit with her comments. But at the same time, we also have a president that has stepped out of line plenty of times at his rallies. And Gianno, you mentioned the man in Chicago, but what you didn't mention is the woman in Kentucky that was shoved around by members of the Trump, era, that they were shoved around. You didn't mention the young man that was punched in the face as he was exiting a Trump rally. So this really does go both ways.
All right, Gianno, last word here.
Okay, so I can absolutely agree with Rochelle in terms of agree to disagree. I think that's great. But the honest answer and response to this is that's a different era. The era that we live in now with the Democratic Party is you're wrong, I'm right. And especially with the economy booming like it is, mob violence seems to be just the answer that they have. And we can be honest about that, Rochelle. We talk about Maxine Waters, and you said that she stepped out of line a little bit. No, it wasn't a little bit. If Obama was in office and Republicans said some of the same things that she said, they would be investigated by the FBI right now.
And if Obama said for people to be punched in the face, this entire country would go crazy if Obama said that.
You know what, though? We can all, to both your points, we can agree to disagree, and this conversation will continue on after this. Thank you both for being with us this morning. It's an important debate to have. Have a great Saturday. All right, coming up on the show, the war on cops intensifies. 3 police officers shot in a line of duty overnight. Our law enforcement panel is here to weigh in on what is behind the increased violence. You don't want to miss it next.
We are back with a Fox News alert, a bad one. 3 police officers shot in the line of duty, 2 of them in Massachusetts, as they were responding to a disturbance call. Both cops, thankfully, expected to be okay. The suspect also shot and is hospitalized. And overnight in Los Angeles, a female officer shot in the leg. Her condition is unknown. The suspect is in custody. The news coming as the number of police dying in the line of duty is on the rise. This year alone, 33 officers have been killed. That's compared to 35 officers killed in all of 2017, and we're just in July. We have a law enforcement panel to talk about what's going on. Sergeant Sean Larkin is with the Tulsa Police Department's gang unit. He's also A&E's live PD featured analyst. And Tracy Frisano is the deputy chief of the Montclair, New Jersey Police Department. And Joe Peters is a former police chief and former White House law enforcement official. Thank you all for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Sobering news. Sergeant, I'll start with you. What do you make of this trend? We're just in July. We're almost at the same amount of police officers killed in 2018. Why?
You know, it's terrible. Any officer that's killed in the line of duty is too many. But, you know, nowadays, I think because of negative media coverage involving almost every officer involved shooting that we see, I think officers are finding themselves a little hesitant to use deadly force at times, even when they're totally justified. The policy covers them. That they're finding themselves hesitant to react, and unfortunately some officers are getting killed because of it.
You know, Tracy, I can relate a little bit in a different scenario, being in the military, rules of engagement. Your commanding officer, whether they support you or not, depends a lot on how you feel in that moment. For police officers in New Jersey and elsewhere, is it a different environment? Are they looked at differently these days?
I think police are always looked at differently. As much as we want to be part of the community, the uniform makes us stand out a little bit more. We're always involved in any type of scenario. I mean, we go to medical calls, we go to fire calls. We're there to even help with kids in schools. So,
absolutely.
Our involvement is at a very high level now in society.
Joe, do you think that's a great point? Because now we're talking about school shootings and should police be there? Is there a stretched thin environment to this too at all? Do we have enough police? Are they asked to do too many things?
No and yes. And it's hard to recruit police today because nobody wants to get killed. The culture has changed. I think I said last week when I was a mafia prosecutor, even the mob did not want to mess with law enforcement because of the ire that it brought. And I think what's happening today is, in addition to that sea change of culture and lack of respect of police, you have other factors that escalate the likelihood of violence. You have Black Lives Matter or white supremacists who are often anti-cops. You have people like Maxine Waters, not to pick on her, they could be of either party, who are urging confrontation. You have an animus toward President Trump at times. So all of this brings the flashpoint, so to speak, and the likelihood of reaction to attack a cop much more quickly than it used to be before. But I will say, law enforcement has no better friend than President Trump. I've been a street cop to White House 30-some years, and I think he will recognize this. And if he were watching this, he would pick up the phone and call DOJ and call the Attorney General and say, we need more training, we need more equipment, we need to work with the community.
It's an interesting point. The ire would have come from the police community against who did that. Now the ire is more public. You've got social media, you've got videos out there. Briefly from all of you, Sergeant Larkin, what needs to change for this to improve?
Obviously better, relationships with the public. I mean, speaking from my own police department, I know we're active out there in the community trying to be, that type of relationship with people. But just as, Joe talked about there, the social media right now is huge because at one point officers were well respected, and now it's actually almost encouraged on social media. It's posted, it's shared, when officer is having a difficult time, and so it encourages others to keep doing it. That's a major issue.
Well, we do have to leave it right there, unfortunately, but thank you. I know this program appreciates what you guys do, and there's a huge swath of America that recognizes that you put your lives on the line so the rest of us can live free and safe. Thank you all very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. You got it. All right, Abby, over to you.
Absolutely. Great job, Pete. All right, turning now to some other headlines we're following this morning. Take a look at this bizarre scene. A small plane makes an emergency landing on Chicago's busy Lakeshore Drive during rush hour. The pilot says that he had no choice but to land the aircraft after the engine lost power. Officials say it was flying to Ohio after taking part in the air show in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Luckily, though, no one was injured. And there's this. The Obama administration caught sending tens of thousands of your tax dollars to a group tied to Al-Qaeda. The National Review revealing that the $115,000 grant in aid came even after the administration found out about the terror funding connection. A total of $200,000 were given to the Islamic Relief Agency to supposedly help provide humanitarian aid to the Sudan conflict back in 2004. And tensions flare when a wild brawl breaks out near President Trump's new Hollywood star. Well, LA police are now looking for two men shown throwing punches at Trump supporters during a rally. The fight eventually coming to a halt as officers cleared the scene. Minor injuries were reported. The president's Hollywood star was replaced after recently damaged by a man with a pickaxe. And there's this. The crowd goes wild after a Scottish dart player throws a perfect game. Watch this.
To end the wait! The magical 9-dart leg!
Gary, the Flying Scotsman Anderson, shot what's known as a 9-darter. He used just 9 darts to score 501 points. The notoriously difficult accomplishment, apparently, is compared to bowling a perfect game. And our own Griff Jenkins would know because he at one point said he was going to be a professional dart player.
I'm terrible. I only entertained it for about 10 seconds, and it was a bad idea. I'm glad I didn't. But, really, that what that guy did is like hitting a hole-in-one golf.
Wow.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. I believe you could do it, Griff.
Yeah.
It would have been a different path for you.
Yeah.
Rick,
It's
what
a
do you think?
professional beer drinker at playing darts and drinking beer. That's what Griff was thinking, I think. Let's be honest. All right, let's talk a little weather. As you're waking up there, we still have some very hot and humid conditions across parts of the east, hot across parts of the west. Certainly as we're continuing to watch those fires in the central part of the country, a big cool down coming. Here's a look at your maps. 61 degrees in Chicago and drier air, so you're feeling really nice. 72 in Atlanta, and you see that orange down there across parts of Arizona and Southern California. That's where the heat still is, even during the overnight hours. Here's how the day plays out. Another batch of scattered showers today. Nothing as severe as we saw yesterday, but we will see some on and off scattered showers. Down across parts of the southeast, put this map in motion for you. We see some heavier showers to start the day across parts of eastern Oklahoma and in throughout areas of Arkansas. Other than that, we'll continue to watch the heat build across parts of the south. All right, guys, back to you inside.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
Well done. He had a bullseye on that weather report, I'll just say.
Well done, Griff.
Darn analogies here. All right, next. Young people are all for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her promises of free everything. But who is going to pay for it?
In your mind, should pay for all of the free things?
All of the free things? Well, some of it should come from taxes, but the government should pay for it.
But the government is funded by taxes.
Yeah.
Her platform includes free healthcare, college tuition, the minimum living wage, housing as a human right. Are those things that you think the government should be providing for people?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
100%.
I feel like everyone should have free education and healthcare.
How are we going to pay for those?
Oh God. I mean,
Us,
I guess.
Yeah. Who, in your mind, should pay for all of the free things?
All of the free things? Well, some of it should come from taxes, but the government should pay for it.
But the government is funded by taxes.
Yeah.
Well, the money's got to come from somewhere. Well, Democratic socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claims that most things in life should be free, but it seems that many supporters don't know how she's going to end up paying for it.
Campus Reformist Kevin Phillips is here with more on his latest videos. Kevin, I love that you were sort of explaining how things work to some of these youngsters.
They definitely need plenty of help in understanding that the government cannot, in fact, fund every single thing you want for free. Even though your feelings might be hurt by that, it's important to understand that fact. And it's tempting to laugh around about the rise of socialism, but ultimately it's not a joking matter. This is a serious issue. Millennials, who are the most likely to fall for it, are now the largest voting bloc in America. They had some other ideas on how we're going to come up with the $1 trillion or so it's going to take to fund all these free things. I believe we have a clip of that here.
I don't know where the money would come from, but they can figure it out.
Okay. More taxes on the rich people.
Yeah, for sure, man. They can afford it.
Tax corporations, let's tax the 1% and find a way to support a living wage.
The people with a good idea and a good reason to spend their tax money wouldn't mind actually paying more taxes.
Okay. Yeah. And not to mention, she talked about gutting the military. I mean, ultimately, it's like we got to slash our military to pay for all this.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like all the students don't have a grip on history, and it's because they don't. They're not being taught history and economics courses. We covered at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform. Universities no longer making civics and government and economics courses mandatory, replacing them with these social justice initiatives. And so many students, it's hard to blame them. They don't have a context of history. They don't know that socialism has failed every time it's been implemented. They think, well, it's tolerant. It's open-minded to want to help people with free things. They don't understand that the best way to bring people out of poverty or to give them freedom of opportunity and give them equal opportunity, free markets, and actually, I think context there is helpful for that.
That's a great point, Kevin. Maybe we should send some of these youngsters on a field trip to Venezuela to see what the end result of socialism
They're going to want to
really
come
is.
back pretty quickly.
They are, and I'm sure that their ideology will fall apart quite quickly. And I think a lot of this also stems from how we have demonized success in America.
Of course.
Many people are taught that if you are wealthy, you only got that way because you stole it from someone less fortunate or less privileged. And I think after 8 years of class warfare under President Obama, young people are now coming of age thinking, well, if someone else is rich, it must be because they did something wrong.
Yeah,
and
they
so we have,
exploited you.
instead of teaching people to emulate success, we've taught them now to try and drag successful people down, and that's the wrong way of doing things.
Cabot,
point.
Always good to have you on. Great work out
Of
there.
course.
Thanks, Kevin.
See you soon.
Yep.
All right, President Trump has a new message for ICE as yet another sanctuary city tries to block them from doing their job. We'll share it with you just ahead.
And Twitter fighting against claims that they shadow ban prominent conservatives. Our next guest says the president was right to call them out for it. We'll bring it to you.
Welcome back. Well, Twitter fighting back against claims from President Trump and top Republicans that they, quote, shadow banned prominent conservatives.
But our next guest writes that Trump is right to call out Twitter and is urging the social media giant to change its ways.
Here with more, president of the Security Studies Group and Army Special Forces veteran Jim Hansen. Jim, always good to have you with us. This has become a real issue. Twitter has said that this was an error on their end and that overnight it was fixed. But either way, this is something that shouldn't be happening.
And they didn't fix it. President Trump is right. What Twitter did is institute what they call a quality filter. And they did this so that they could screen out things like spam and bots and other things. Seems like a great idea, right? But it disproportionately affected conservatives. Kind of weird. And when you advantage one side and disadvantage another, you're doing something that's wrong. They found out that the Republican chairwoman, her account was quality banned, while the Democrats weren't. Same thing for members of Congress. And I mean, during an election season, when Twitter knew that was happening, and they did, that looks an awful lot like what you might call election meddling.
Jim, a lot of concerns amongst conservatives, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, that sort of detached corporate elites are putting their finger on the scale of the public conversation. How do we, Twitter's today, Facebook and others will be tomorrow. How do we change this?
Well, here's the thing, Pete. Twitter is a private corporation. They're allowed to do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. That's the joys of free speech. But when they go ahead and make decisions that they know are going to change the political and information landscape, they're doing something wrong. And they've done this, Twitter has, by allowing liberals to institute a heckler's veto. So when they talk about which accounts are low quality, some of the factors they use are how other people perceive the account. Who blocks the account? Who complains and reports on particular accounts? Yeah. And liberals do that proportionally more than conservatives. So when Twitter uses that as a factor to declare these accounts low quality, they are putting their finger on the scale.
Yeah, also a systemic thing. You've got to get people that work in your company that might think differently than you do. You can't live in a bubble. I think we can all agree on that one. Jim Hansen, always great to have you on this stuff.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All
right. We've got coming up Reince Priebus, Mercedes Schlapp. Greg Jarrett's got a great new book, all here live coming up on this Saturday edition.